I was 14. It was an average night, around 9 p.m. Me and my little cousin are at his house. I'm babysitting for the night, while my mom and aunt are shopping, and my dad and uncle are at the movie theater. So we're sitting there, and I was feeling really strange. Something was wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it. So I just kept watching TV with my cousin. The feeling wasn't going away, so I got up and walked to the back door to lock it. When I came back through the kitchen, I saw what was causing my weird feeling. In the window, there was a very decrepit and homeless-looking man, just staring into the window, looking at my cousin. Protective mode turned on. I pretended like I didn't see the guy, and I told my little cousin that we needed to go upstairs because our parents would be home soon, and they wouldn't want him to be staying up late. So I went upstairs and put him to bed, knowing damn well that there was a man outside that wanted in. I was about 125 pounds and 5'8" at the time, and I played football for my school. If I remember correctly, I went downstairs and straight into the kitchen and grabbed one of those meat tenderizing hammers, turned back to the window where I saw him before. Not there. Ran back to the front door and checked that it was locked. Both the deadbolt and the knob were locked. Ran back upstairs with my meat tenderizer and went into my cousin's room and sat down in front of the door. He asked me what I was doing, and I said that he didn't need to worry about it and that he should keep his head low. Called the cops, and then my dad and uncle. Cops would take half an hour, and my dad and uncle were 45 minutes away. Then I hear a window shatter and the sound of heavy boots walking around on the main floor. I told my cousin to stay calm, hide under the covers, and to keep silent. I could hear the guy walking around downstairs. It was horrifying. I gripped that damn meat tenderizer and waited. About 5 minutes pass, and then I hear the boots walking upstairs. At this point, I was having a freaking heart attack. My cousin's door is no more than 10 feet from the stairs. I heard him opening the doors to my aunt and uncle's room, then the bathroom. He walked back downstairs, and I heard him open the door to the basement. 15 minutes later, the police showed up and burst into the house. Turned out the guy was loose from a mental hospital 1 province away.
Me and my older sibling staying at home. Small town in Ohio, with less people in it than my mom's graduating class of the city we came from. Sibling is grounded. Both the house's phone and their own phone are locked in my dad's gun safe, which neither of us had the combination to. Reason for being grounded is something silly and arbitrary. Can't remember quite why. Grandparents live down the street. Great-grandmother lives in a small house they built her on the property so that she could be independent, but they would still be close by. My parents said that they were going to go check on my great-grandmother, as my grandparents were out of town that day, and then they would come back and we would order pizza. That sounded good enough to 7-year-old me and 15-year-old sibling. We played video games for a while, starting to get hungry and wonder when my parents would be back. After about 2 hours of them being gone, I heard a knock on the door. I went downstairs, pretty excited for the food, and my sibling followed a bit behind after saving the game. Walked up to the door, which had a large window in it, and not my parents. Very tall, lean white guy with some short black hair and scruffy facial hair.
24, 25 years old. More jarring because everyone knew everyone in this small town, and I had no clue who this was. I held up my finger like 1 second and closed the curtain. I turned to see my siblings staring at the door in a bit of disbelief because they had seen the person too. In seconds, knocking turned to pounding, turned to shaking and rattling our doorknob. Terrified, and with no way to call our parents, my sibling grabbed my hand and ran me into the kitchen. They grabbed a knife, and I distinctly remember it breaking in their hand, and them grabbing a different one. We hid in the laundry room and held each other, hearing banging, pounding, and about 5 minutes that felt like hours later, the front door opening. One thing about my sibling is they have always been ready to protect me at a moment's notice, and they were ready to jump up with their shitty kitchen knife and defend me the moment the dude was upon us. Instead, my mom rounded the corner, holding 2 pizza boxes and wondering why her 2 kids were in a crumpled heap of tears on the floor. We both stood up and ran to tell her about the man outside, but we were met with laughter. My dad was outside talking to him. She said that he was asking about buying a broken-down car that had been in our driveway for a few months and was apparently a mechanic. My mom felt terrible, but found the situation a bit amusing. Apparently, she went out and told the man, and he said he felt bad for scaring us. We were given hugs and promised that the phones wouldn't be locked away while they were gone again, and spent the evening eating our pizza with choked sobs. But something still bothers me, even though it didn't as a child. Something that I just never thought about. Why would an adult grown man pound on the door like that, shake the handle, try his very damnedest to get into a house where either the parents weren't home or the youngest child had held up their finger like 1 second to go get their parent? Why would someone want to talk about a car that didn't have any sort of for sale sign on it so late at night? 9, 10 p.m.?
I was in the 7th or 8th grade. I was home alone in the same house. My parents were gone for the day, and it was a weekend. It was cold and dreary outside, and I decided to do homework. I sat down at the kitchen table and laid out my books and notebook. To my left, in the small house, was the hallway. If you walk down the hallway, on the right side is the bathroom and then my bedroom. On the left side of the hallway is my parents' bedroom and my brother's bedroom. That's it. Small house. My brother worked all the time and was a lot older, so he wasn't home either. The house was dead silent. The house had that midday, low-light, hazy, dreary lighting effect to it, due to the weather, and not a lot of windows, which added to the peacefulness of the day. I was working on homework, and everything was fine, and I was enjoying the time alone. From the end of the hallway to my left, a woman said my name. Again, it was my childhood nickname, and it was clear as day. My blood ran cold, and I froze. I looked to my left, to the end of the hallway, and saw nothing. My jacket was nearby, and in one swift movement, I quietly closed my books and grabbed my jacket as my heart was in my throat. I started to cry with fear. I headed directly out the back door without looking back. I went to the standalone garage out back and sat on my dad's red lawnmower and watched the back door to see if anyone came out of the house, although it would be impossible for anyone to be in the house other than myself because my family were the only people who had been home all day. I sat there shivering for hours until my parents got home. As soon as they pulled into the driveway, I met them and told them what had happened. They checked the house and found nothing and said it was my imagination. My mother still lives in the house, and I live with her to help her now that she's elderly. My father died several years ago. Mom always heard Dad calling her name from the living room and talks about it often. She would go into the living room to ask him what he wanted, and he hadn't called her name. She still says it's her imagination.